Well, thanks for joining me. Abraham Amaleba is a legal practitioner, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's quickly look at senior high schools to be shut down over unpaid feeding grants. And this is coming from the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, threatening to shut down senior high schools across the country following government's delay in paying subsidies to schools. We know this has been a concern consistently, but now they have formally come out to raise some of these concerns.
Let me say good morning to your viewers. This has been an issue for a while now. I know there was a similar issue regarding the schools up north, where their feeding grants were not sent to them, and there were threats of closing them down. However, government quickly mobilized funds and then salvaged the situation. I think the problem has to do with the procedures involved in release of funds. Sometimes, because of the strict nature of releasing funds, and that you have to go through a long procedure, some of these things do happen. But I don't think that we'll get to the point where the schools will be closed. In any case, it is not the Conference of Assisted Secondary Schools who close down schools. It is a ministry. Don't forget that the headmasters themselves are employees, so they cannot order the closure of schools. And so the ministry, together with the headmasters or head teachers of the various secondary schools and other stakeholders, would quickly come together and see how this issue will be resolved. I don't think this is beyond the government. I'm sure this morning the Minister of Education, together with the Minister of Finance, whoever, any of them, would issue a statement stating how this issue will be resolved. Parents can be rest assured that we will never get to a point where the schools will be closed down. I do not think so. But it has to do with the slow nature and the snail-paced nature of release of funds to the various schools.
Well, that would be a very good excuse or way of communicating. But for example, how about this? This one, we're quoting the president of CHAN, Cecilia Kofi, who is saying that, for example, the absorbed fees for second and third term for 2015-2016 have not been paid, and progressively free scholarship for second and third terms of the same academic period has not been paid. You can definitely say, because now the academic year has almost come to a close, or if not close.
I'm reading from that same paragraph the feeding grant for schools in the three northern regions. I thought this issue came up and some monies were sent to them. I mean the northern schools. So I don't think this is an issue up north. Yes, absorption of fees is more or less like subsidizing. I indicated to you that when government subsidize, it takes some time for the money to be released. Even when petrol prices are increased and government subsidizes it, it takes some time before government releases the funds. I think time has come for the Minister of Finance to try to shorten the processes. I can understand if some of the procedures are jumped. You have the Controller and Accountant General coming out to make statements in his report that there were some misappropriation, and so they want to ensure that everything is laid out and they follow the procedure. It is bad press, I must say, for government to always wait till this point when they come in to resolve the issues. Government should begin to be proactive with some of these things. These things are recurrent expenditure. Yearly you pay these things. Yearly you pay these things. It's not a new thing. It's not an introduction. So once it's a recurrent expenditure, I am not a finance man, but I don't know why we have to wait. The ministry will have to wait till this, when we get to the crunch, before they begin to act. Something must be done. If it's the procedures, we must find a way of shortening the procedure so that we ensure that these things do not reoccur. They are bad press for government, I must say.
We'll see how that goes. What are your impressions so far of the display of the voters register or exhibition, as we'll call it, by the Electoral Commission, and alongside the opportunity to have those who registered initially with the National Health Insurance Scheme cards and had their names deleted by the Supreme Court orders, also having a re-entry into the register?
I think the review, the what do they call it, the exhibition of the register is going on. We are in the third or fourth day. It is one of the activities lined up by the EC to undertake. My understanding is that it is picking up slowly, and that when you go to the centers, you don't have the numbers that you think that will turn up. However, you know, by our nature as Ghanaians, we like to do things the last minute. I'm told that some people have turned up, they've checked their names, and so that for me is good. Let's encourage our fellow brothers and sisters to also turn up to do so. I'm also told that there's a code, there's a code that you can use to 6363 or so, to be able to access, to know whether your name is there. On the issue of those whose names have been removed and they were asked to re-register, this is also the period within which these exercises are taking place. I think the education should go down well for people to understand that these two exercises are going on simultaneously. The issue with those whose names have been removed and now they are supposed to have them back is that, do we have all of them knowing that their names have been removed? That's the issue. Because the names are published in the dailies. It's not everybody who reads the dailies. In the remote areas, these dailies never reach there. Sometimes you have to travel some distance to the district office. That is also a disincentive. However, what may be a panacea to this problem is that the exhibition of the register is taking place at almost all the polling stations, which means that a polling station will be close to that person. So I entreat persons who might know, because there are people who say they don't know whether they use any of them, but you need to go and check, who might know that their names have been removed, or who use the NHI card to go to those polling stations and check. Political parties too have a responsibility. I'm reading from your synopsis that they are yet to give the names to the political party. The EC is yet to give those names. I think that they already have the names. When I was in Bolga, my secretary, the constituency secretary, indicated that some names had come.
Okay.
And so political parties must target those people, aid them to come and register, because you are the beneficiary. And so I know that my political party is doing that. They take the list and fish out for those people. If they are harmless, you fish them out and aid them to come and register, and then they can go back.
It means that the political parties, wouldn't they be biased, only perhaps fishing out or looking out for those they think are in their...
Oh, no, not in their... If you can identify
once in your
everybody, you can identify anybody whose name has been removed, you assist that person to come to the center. You are the beneficiary of the votes that are overall votes if they are counted. So you should be more proactive than the EC.
Very interesting point you make there, though. But we know that there's also been ongoing conversation about this, not particularly just recently on social media. A lot of things popped up. I even interviewed the member of parliament of the KEA here, I think on Tuesday, and he also had raised concerns that he, Dr. Nana Atuata, particularly also was concerned about the numbers in some particular areas. For example,
of what?
For example, of those that have their names deleted. Yes. For example, in the central region, 5,000. In his constituency, over 700 people, and they have to go to the district office. That's where they have to do the registration. Yes. But it makes it very difficult. And he speculated that perhaps even the deletion targeted likely opposition supporters within the communities. Knowing that this also has been highlighted by the the Daily Dispatch, which is questioning how a picture can also show the political bias of somebody's face, etc. Because Mr. Sampine, a very good friend of mine, he's a secretary of the NPP in the Ashanti region, has appeared on this program. We're speaking on Meet FM, even though that was denied by the head of communications of the EC. But it seems that some of the members, or some names, were very much very populated in NPP strongholds and in some areas, etc. I don't know whether you've heard this very argument. Have you heard it?
I've not heard it, but if it's coming from the NPP themselves, were they know the people who are championing for the removal of these names? Were they the same people who indicated that we need to take off the names of those who use the NHI cards? And so if the EC has come out with those names and they are now complaining, you begin to find out what these people want. In any case, there's a saying that be careful of what you ask for. We have always said that these elections can be run without necessarily removing the names of these NHI people, because the NPP itself, as we sit today, claim that they won the 2012 elections, even though the Supreme Court has ruled that they lost it. In their hearts of heart, they still believe that they won the 2012 elections. The question to ask is, on which register? On the register that the NHI cards were used? And so, if after the election petition, they find that NHI cards were used and they want them to be expunged, the EC went to court with them. The Supreme Court made orders. The EC has complied with the orders. Why are they crying now? Why are they crying now? I think that it is a case of a political party that is not ready for the elections and would find all manner of excuses. How sure are they that all those whose names are to be removed would vote for the NPP? It may be in their stronghold, but a stronghold doesn't mean that you don't have opposition members in those areas. So you indicate that because the numbers in the opposition stronghold are high, that means that they are targeting you. I think that they were the ones who were requesting for that.
Are you saying that the concerns of some members of the party, or notable speakers, could not be genuine?
It's unfounded in the first place, because they asked for it, they have been granted what they asked for, and so they cannot now begin to punch holes and say that the names as presented by the EC was to target their strongholds. I think that is far-fetched. And the proof is what? The proof for them is that they think that because it is their stronghold, then that means they are disenfranchising their people. That proof cannot stand. It cannot stand. Because in every stronghold, you have opposition members. What is the guarantee that those names were not rather against your opponent? And I don't think that they should be allowed to continue saying that.
Well, there's been an ongoing issue in the courts, and well, it says following a ruling yesterday, the Supreme Court dismissing 3 suits challenging methods adopted by the President in appointing justices of the Supreme Court and the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Now, it was a unanimous decision, and of course by Justice William Atuguba. But what do you make of this in itself? Now, particularly following the concerns that had been raised prior to the appointment of the current chairperson of the Electoral Commission and all, and whether the President needed to always take the advice sacrosanct, or hook, line, and sinker of the Council of State before making appointments.
There were two decisions. One was in respect of the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court, and the other was the EC chairperson or chairman, if you want. With the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court indicated that yes, the Council of States and the Judicial Council would advise the president, but the president is not bound by the advice. Now, those who went to court, the applicants, were the Ghana Bar Association. The Ghana Bar Association says that, and for them, they are not saying that the president appointed people outside the list. What they said was that the list as presented has graded the judges. Apparently, the judges would have appeared before a committee.
And this very list was presented by the Judicial Council.
Judicial Council. Apparently, the list is an indication of the judges' performance when they appear before the Judicial Council. So, what they said was that if the president is to appoint from the list, he must necessarily appoint from the first one in that order. And that the president cannot go and pick number 20 and leave the first one.
But there were 3 names, I believe, at the time.
No, there were more than 3.
There were more than 3.
In fact, this came because after the appointment of Justice Puama and then Apo. My understanding is that their names were not among they were lower in terms of the grading.
Yes.
And so they said that no, the president rather chose people who were down the list instead of starting from the top. So that was their beef. Now, is the president bound by the list in the way it is arranged? The Supreme Court said no. And that it would create absurdity if the president was to be bound by the list, because it will mean that if the Judicial Council presents 100 names, the Supreme Court, the president is bound to appoint all the 100 names. And so that matter was thrown out and indicated that the president did not err. And you see, most of those judges too were appointed in the same manner. And it will have brought into question their own appointment.
Meaning what? They were not appointed based on...
They were appointed from the list.
How they were also appointed? How they appeared on the list?
They were appointed on the list,
but not necessarily...
Not in the alphabetical order or in terms of
the numerical grading.
Yes. So for me, this brings to closure the issue of appointment. And I think that the Ghana Bar Association did not. They allowed their emotions to override them, and I'm sure they were targeting the 2 judges. That's my view.
Apo and
but made it generally.
Yeah.
Because why? These appointments have always been done in that way. Ghana Bar Association has always been there. Why didn't you raise the issue? They only waited when these 2 judges were appointed, then you come out with a writ. So I think that they have been served right. With the issue of the Electoral Commissioner, I think that the Supreme Court should have taken advantage to also deal with that case just as how they dealt with the judge's case. But what they said was that considering the way they couch their reliefs, that's the plaintiffs or the applicants, that's Richard Sky and another guy, considering the way they couch their reliefs, they were seeking for advice, legal advice. And the Supreme Court is not a chamber to be advising people. So they told them that in that case, they should go to their solicitors and their solicitor will give them the advice. But I think that they should have seized the opportunity to also deal with it, because the 2 writs are similar. Just as how it was questioning the powers of the president to do the appointment. And so, for me, that was a lost opportunity in respect of the council, the EC commissioner. And I'm not sure, maybe one day somebody will bring it up again. But if they had dealt with it, just as they have dealt with it, that will bring,
in the meantime, bring some closure to it.
Yeah.
But how critical is this going forward, especially on the other one about the appointments per the recommendation of the Judicial Council?
Going forward,
in terms of a future...
Oh no, going forward, the matter has been rested, because going forward, the president will continue to do the way he is doing in terms of the appointment. The president will not change his mode of appointment. So that brings that matter to an end. But with the EC one, is where I have my doubt as to whether somebody one day will not bring up the matter again.
Because it can be brought up.
It can be brought up.
Why has it generated a lot of controversy, if I can put it that way?
I think citizens are beginning to question, and I think that citizens are beginning to test the law as well. It's good to test the law. I understand in India, every aspect of their constitution, almost every aspect of their constitution has been tested, and so now it's a settled law. Some of the constitutional provisions have been settled in the Supreme Court in India. If that's the kind of thing we are seeing, I think it's a healthy development. It is also politically motivated. The issue about the EC has always been a thorny issue. You know, for God's own design, if for the want of the right word, it appears is the under this Fourth Republic, it appears it's only under the NDC government that you have the opportunity to appoint. So the opposition party are feeling uncomfortable about that, but it is not the making of the NDC. If this woman's term comes to an end and it is within the NDC's term, the president at the time would also have to appoint, exercise his responsibility. But because it has happened twice under the NDC, the opposition parties feel uncomfortable, they feel uneasy, and think that some strings are being pulled here and there, and so they want to challenge the authority of the president in the appointment.
Those who formulated the law in the first place, who put together the law, the framers of the law, what was the wisdom behind the law in making sure that the appointments by the president in consultations with the Council of State?
Yes. And
then we know the term limits, you go, and so there's some level of insulation, etc. What was the wisdom behind that?
You see, we have an executive presidency. And with the executive presidency, just as in the US, the buck stops with the president. And that is why if there is doomsday, you don't blame any other person but the president, and he carries the weight. And that is why if there's shortage of water, you don't blame anybody but the president. Now, are there checks and balances? Are there checks and balances? That's the most important thing. In an executive presidency, you provide mechanisms for checks and balances. And the Supreme Court rightly indicated that the president's power to appoint is not sacrosanct.
It's not absolute.
It's not absolute, because there are checks on his powers, and there are balances in terms of some other institution, state institution, interfering with the appointment.
And in this instance?
In this instance, you have, in the case of the
appointment of the electoral
commissioner, you have the Council of State. So the Council of State can actually refuse the candidate, and the president would have to also again send somebody and continue to send. So the Council of State acts as a check. So when you just bring in anybody, when the president brings in his cousin, you can be sure the Council of State will reject it. So there are enough checks and balances to ensure that a competent person or a neutral person is brought on board. So yes, the framers thought that because we have an executive presidency, the buck stops with the president. But again, you can tamper with the powers of the president by ensuring that other state institutions serve as a watch over the presidency. One of it is also the Judicial Council, which can also refuse to nominate some people on the list. And if they refuse to nominate, the president cannot appoint that person.
But then I'm asking this because of the disagreement and perhaps the speculations and the concerns raised by the opposition, especially the NPP, about the recent appointment made, and then also whether that person will act neutrally in the free and fair manner for some transparency in the elections, etc. What in the law gives that very assurance to the ordinary voter, not necessarily the political actors?
Well, in the law, once you appoint that person, and there are a few of them like that, the Chief Justice is one, you can't remove him just like that. The EC, you can't remove him. The Governor of Bank of Ghana is also insulated. So once you appoint that person, how does that person become bold to withstand any interference? Is because there's security of tenure of office. That once you appoint him, you cannot remove him just by a pen and paper. Just as how the president can just remove his ministers, that cannot be done to the EC commissioner. So that is how. But if the opposition is concerned, I think that they must show proof. I saw some pictures of her trying to target the NDC and indicated that she contested on the parliamentary seat of NDC some time back ago. But I was happy that no less a person than my good friend Frank Davis came out to dispel that notion and indicated that he and that lady, chairperson, worked together in Akufo-Addo's chambers, and he knows her very well, and she has never contested for any such position. But you see, the opposition will always throw mud and hope that it will stick. But again, you have to ensure that you clear all these things. That's the nature of the politics we play in Ghana.
Well, it's just that sometimes when the speculations, and especially they are also found or broadcast by the media, it tends to create some level
it tends to create, and the media, I must say, must be circumspect. They shouldn't just begin to throw out anything that is heard. They must look, when you go to the School of Journalism, one of the golden rule is that check and check and check again before you publish. But I know now there's competition to break news, and so some of you throw this very important caution away. But again, you are open to all manner of suits if you don't do your homework.
Okay,
well.
And that even leads us to a story about a lecturer at the School of Communication Studies, University of Ghana, Dr. Sekanku, urging the media and its owners to play a key role in efforts to sanitize the media landscape. He is very concerned that media owners don't tend to check ethical violations, and we know there have been concerns about all that is said on the media landscape on various platforms, etc. We even had we have an ongoing case currently about contempt case against 3 or 5 people, etc. The media owners, what role do they have to play? I mean, your estimation, because you also tend to interact with us very often.
They are supposed to, for me, act as gatekeepers, but it appears some of them are not acting as such. Some media owners too have left the job. They don't really show interest in the job. Once they establish the empire, or they establish the radio station and they establish the TV station, then they let go and allow people to. But they must show keen interest in the activities of the media station. Some media houses have their owners also being panelists on the program. That for me is bad. I think that as media owners and the media in general should serve as gatekeepers. You see, you sitting here as a media person, know if you want this program, this morning, if you wanted this program to turn out nasty, if you wanted it to turn out in a very bad way, I'm sure you know the people you would have invited. But so I'm now talking about who you invite onto your program. You must be careful not to invite some people, because when they appear on your program, what they spew out is nothing that one can write home about. So that's the gatekeeping rule I'm talking about. I'm happy there are some journalists who have indicated there are some people they will never invite them onto their program, and I think that is a principle that we must all hold.
Well, here too, but on this very platform too, we
do the same thing. And sometimes to media men in sight, they would call one person and then put him on.
Never inform you that they are calling the other.
That is one. But what I'm trying to talk about is that then they will quickly call another person and say, this man is here insulting you. So just listen to him and then also respond. That is incitement. So I think the gatekeeping role should be what I would say taken seriously. Until that, we will begin to have some of the programs that we have. But I'm happy that there are few media houses who are professional, and even some media personalities, you have a few of them who are professional. They must educate the others to ensure that we have a serene atmosphere.
How is that critical in ensuring that we complement the effort to create the needed atmosphere for the election? Because we know the election today is really 108 days away.
Particularly, it is crucial for us in Ghana because in the few days' time we are going to elections. And in Africa, elections are seen, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be seen that way, as do and die. So if you also have the media fanning those flames as a do and die affair, then you begin to agitate the people and you begin to excite some of them to engage in violent acts. So media houses and I think the National Media Commission should be proactive, call them to order. I like what the West Africa
Media Foundation
is doing. Naming and shaming is important. They should go further to begin to name personalities. They started well by just mentioning radio stations and TV stations.
You think they have
and political parties. Now, in a political party, we are so many. So, identify the individual and name that person and shame him. If that is done, I'm sure people will begin to tone down. Else, there are some people who, when they appear on radio stations, want to show their manly nature. Some of them actually blow hot air. They actually don't have the capacity to do anything. But because of probably the kinds of comments their political party members would give to them, giving them that praises, they want to sit on radio and TV and make it look like they are the strong people in town. But indeed, and in fact, we say they don't have any focal.
And before we go, sometimes it looks as if the political parties and their leadership tend to endorse what their communicators tend to do, even though it's negative. Or it's not necessary.
That is so. That is so. Because I heard a pathetic comment 2 days ago when the National Women's Organizer was literally supporting what Kenny Yarepon said, when the whole country is up in arms condemning that statement. When this Muntie matter came, even though one of the panelists is an NDC man, I condemn it and said that that's not the way we should go. We can plead for leniency, and forgiveness. But if your member errs, I think you should say it to that person. The president also indicated that chiefs and opinion leaders should help to ensure that people tone down on intemperate language. That is how we should go. I don't think that, I have always said that I don't want to be seen carrying my bed sheet and my mat across to Togo. I can't speak French. Anywhere we are surrounded by French. I'm sure the fishes in the sea are speaking French. They are also speaking French. So even if I go into the sea, how can I communicate with the fishes?
You go abroad.
So I don't have a passport to go abroad. So I think that as a nation, we must keep the peace and not allow. And the youth are a keg of gunpowder. The youth should understand that if you are in trouble, no politician will come to your aid. If you are shot at, they only come and bring you 1 bag of rice, your family 1 bag of rice and a gallon of oil. Nothing to get from it. I think the youth, there must be a program targeted at the youth. These macho people who have suddenly become strong men supporting political parties and creating mayhem should be talked to. But I also think that we should crack the whip. When they are arrested, you should punish them severely to ensure that it serves as a deterrent. Well,
thank you very much. Abraham Amaleba is a legal practitioner, and thanks for joining me this morning. It's been a delight having you. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more for you. Becky is around with a lot more entertainment. Do stay on.